Hello. I am so sorry about what happened. My Windows crashed on my computer. So, welcome back to everyone. Apologies once again for the stream going down. So, I can hear you breathing, Max. Apologies once again. My computer ran out of memory, I think, and the stream brought it down. Actually, it's never happened before. So, welcome back, everyone. So we're up to 9 viewers. Okay, a little bit embarrassing when this happens. Windows. Glad we're all back. Great. So I'll just wait for some more people to come on. Apologies once again. Hoi hoi. Bloody Amstrads, yes. Now we could like twice. Hamster's got a hamster, yes. Am I streaming yet? Yes, you are. It's not embarrassing, it's funny. I'm glad you can see the funny side of it. It's extremely embarrassing for me. Windows crashing, running out of memory. No, don't say, yes. What is it with Windows is the more you have it on, the worse it gets. I need to get a Mac. Probably a Mac is the Macs are better. And just as I said that, Macs are better than PCs appears on my screen. Max, you need to get yourself a Mac. I do. We left the stream and we get and yet we get and we are streaming. This is Brexit YouTube. The stream's so nice you can like it twice. I love you guys. You have the patience of saints. So let's hear what. So I wanted to change direction for a little bit. So we're going to look at Kanye West, who is running for president at the moment. Why don't you try to change the days of the live stream, for example, Monday and Thursday, when you shouldn't have any troubles? I can try that. Yeah, it might be an idea to try to change some of the days, but most people are expecting Tuesday and Friday, so if I change it, it might be a problem. So, thank you very much for that comment, Glasgow Kiss. Yes, Saint Glasgow Kiss. But it's not a Big Mac. Okay, so let's hear what Donald Trump and Kanye West had to say about Donald Trump.
I'm taking the red hat off. In the wide-ranging 4-hour interview, the Grammy winner cuts ties with the sitting president and characterizes Democratic candidate Joe Biden as not special. The rapper turned business mogul also discusses his presidential platform. And while he holds strong views on issues like the death penalty and abortion, he admits that he hasn't done his research yet when it comes to taxes and has
he hasn't done his research when it comes to taxes. Really?
To develop his foreign policy. But he says he's committed to Black Americans and plans to run the White House like the secret nation of Wakanda from Black Panther.
When I was talking about this the other day, how is it? I didn't think it was possible that there'd be somebody worse than Donald Trump, and here we have somebody who's worse than Donald Trump. Admits. A 4-hour interview.
Also landed a running mate, Michelle Tidball, a self-proclaimed biblical life coach from Cody.
A biblical life coach. What the hell is a biblical life coach?
Wyoming, where Kanye spends much of his time. The rapper also weighs in on the ongoing health crisis, saying he battled the illness in February and citing prayers as the key to finding a cure. In fact, much of his platform.
So not basing it on science, but basing it on cures, on prayers.
is rooted in God, right down to when he foresees winning, saying, quote, God appoints the president. If I win in 2020, then it was God's appointment.
What I love about these evangelicals or these religious people or fake religious people, I don't know if he's fake or if he actually believes in God or not, but didn't Jesus say it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven? Why aren't these people giving away all their money? I really don't understand these religious people who have billions of dollars. Kanye West has billions of dollars. Shouldn't he be giving it away? Shouldn't he be living like a pauper? Shouldn't he be living on the street, as Jesus said?
Win in 2024.
Biblical life coach, live to 30, then get crucified. Kanye has recently seen the financial benefits of being religious. Yes. Don't pay any taxes. You don't even need an accountant. Just don't pay any taxes.
Then that was God's appointment. Some have also questioned Kanye's mental health after he was hospitalized in 2016 and later revealed he's bipolar. He tells Forbes, quote,
well, Donald Trump is bipolar as well, so I don't really see the problem there.
People were calling me crazy. I'm not crazy. Adding, we're not going crazy, we're going Yeezy. It's a whole nother level now.
So does anyone know what Yeezy means? I've never heard this word before, Yeezy. Is it like a brand of cheese or something? Yeezy? Buffett, Soros and Gates gave away their money now, and look at the publicity they got. In a way, yes. George W. Bush was the prototype. If it elected and get it redirected the next stage of Trump is but a stepping stone to the permanent moronic president at the behest of the corporation. Yeah, that's it summed up perfectly. Yeezy, I think it's his brand. Thanks for that, Tiny Demolition Lover. He's bipolar. The crazy pole, the crazier pole. It means he's a bellend. Mark Efi, great to see you. Welcome to this stream. It's better than the last stream. Easy, that feeling when you get when you stand up too quickly. Easy peasy, easy cheesy peasy. Oh my God. Max, Jesus also said, render unto Caesar. Is that, it's gone. Render unto Caesar that what is Caesar's.
But there's still the issue of paperwork, which Anthony Anderson addressed while guest hosting Jimmy Kimmel Live on Monday.
And he's already missed the deadline to file as an independent candidate in a bunch of states. But other than that, he good.
To that...
So it's not like... If he had said this back in January, then he'd have time to file in these states. But it seems to be the only state that he can actually file for a candidacy is in Florida. Now, would he upset the vote in Florida, steal votes away from... People are saying that he'd steal votes away from Joe Biden. I really don't see that happening. It's more likely him stealing votes away from Trump. Because he said he no longer supports Trump, but he was a Trump supporter, and Trump supporters loved him. I don't think Kanye is not serious. No, I don't think he's serious. I think it's a way to promote his brand. Click the like again, people. It's what Jesus would do. And you're an archangel, so you would know that.
Kanye says he'll cite issues surrounding the health crisis as a way to get on those ballots. And since he's not running with a major party, the hip-hop star is launching his own, the birthday party, because...
The birthday party. From my list, yeah, so QA Library shared a list on Discord. From my list, a lot of the states close in 2019 to stand in 2020. But also, you need a party. You need to be with a party. He doesn't have any party apart from the birthday party. Satan says like. Next US president will be Jimmy McGill. Better call Saul. He would steal votes from the monster-having loony party. Lennon, thank you so much for that kind donation. Thank you so much. Monster-raving loony party. What was that guy? What party was the guy? Was it Monster Raving Loony Party? I'm going in another direction now for a moment, but that Nigel Farage lost to. He lost to a guy in a penguin suit, dressed as a penguin, or no, not penguin, a dolphin. I think it was a dolphin or a penguin that Nigel Farage lost to. Was he with the Monster Raving Loony Party as well? Of course, Boris Johnson has eaten deeply into the Monster Raving Loony Party vote in the UK. What's the point in voting for the Monster Raving Loony Party when you can get the real deal with Boris Johnson? Back to the Future reboot stuff. Future boy. Who's the president in 2025? Kanye West. Kanye West, the crapper. We're laughing at this, but I imagine if Lord Buckethead, I imagine if we laugh, we did a live stream in 2012 or something like that. Donald Trump running for president. Yeah, we're going to laugh at that. I don't see there's no chance of him winning, but there's definitely a chance of him. Well, not even a definite. There is a chance, a possibility, a slight possibility that he would, he would upset somewhere, maybe Florida, but if the margin is 1 or 2%, and he got enough people to come out and vote, but you need to be campaigning. You need to get people to come out and vote for you. You can't just post a few tweets and do a few music videos or a few advertisements. That's not it. You need to campaign, and he's not going to campaign. Conway got good hair. If you can't laugh at all this crazy, you'll end up very sad. I agree. No, it's all a joke, and we have to laugh at it because there is no alternative. So staying on the madness, yes, what's very interesting is Donald Trump is, of course, going up against Joe Biden, and Joe Biden may have some allies from an unusual source. So there's a project called the Lincoln Project in the US.
Someday soon, the time of.
So this is the Lincoln Project. It's a group of anti-Donald Trump Republicans. Now they're a little bit different from the what was it called, the Never Trumpers back in 2016. The Never Trumpers really were a very small entity. There were just a number of politicians and celebrities who were against Donald Trump as candidate. But this Lincoln Project is more interesting. Where actually, if you look at the video, the channel, it's been set up very recently, and it has 301,000 subscribers. Now, I don't know how old the project itself is, but recently it's got a lot of support. But you have to remember, these are Republicans. They're against Donald Trump because they don't like Donald Trump. The dolphin guy was John Stevens, an independent who called himself Flipper, and he beat Nigel Farage. That's amazing. Also, Republican voters against Trump. Lincoln Project is a fun time. What is exactly Biden standing for? He's standing for I'll get back to you on that. He's standing for nothing, really. He's standing for, you liked Obama? Well, I'll deliver some more of the same of what Obama delivered. Basically, I think. Neoliberal policies. But without mean tweets and without the shenanigans of Donald Trump, the embarrassing, basically the same policies as Donald Trump without the bad language or the meanness or whatever. Biden equals not Trump. But I've talked about this before. When you vote in the general election, you're voting for the incumbent or you're voting against the incumbent. You're not voting for Joe Biden. So there are people who will vote for Joe Biden, but the vast majority of people either vote for Donald Trump or they vote against Donald Trump. And I think at the moment, the majority seem to be going in the direction against Donald Trump. I try to ignore the sycophants and the people who are against Trump, because the sycophants will always vote for Trump. Trump could, eat a baby, a live baby on TV with, with an upside down cross behind him, and these people would still vote for him. I think there's only one thing that would turn off the sycophants, is if Donald Trump converted to Islam. That's for me the only thing he could do. He could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, they wouldn't care about that. He could hug Black Lives Matter, they wouldn't care about that. He could wear a mask, they wouldn't really care about that. But if Donald Trump converted to Islam, that would be, I think, the only thing that would break his support with them. Although I could be wrong, and some people would say, yeah, great, I'm going to convert to Islam too. But that's about it. Hair sniffer Biden. No, that's how you become Pope. Islam and full socialist. If he burnt the Stars and Stripes. No, I don't even think if he burnt the Stars and Stripes. They would say, see, he's upset with the flag. He's upset with people being upset with the flag. That's why he's doing it, in an ironic way. That's what they would say. But if he converted to Islam, there's nothing they could say. And these people are so fundamentally against Islam or against Muslims in general that their heads would explode. They would abandon him, I think. There would probably be a few people who would join him, but I think it would be too much for most of them. But he could do anything else, and I think he'd be fine. He's already responsible for 130 or more, actually, 134,000 deaths already. If he became a Marxist, see, most people, unless he said he was a Marxist, like if he became a Marxist but didn't say he was a Marxist, if he said, I'm going to implement these types of policies but didn't say that they were Marxist, then he would be okay. I still even think if he had said, I'm going to become a Marxist, they would flip and they would say, yeah, that's a good idea. But Islam, no. Anyway, here's an ad from the Lincoln Project, so let's see what it says.
Trump will pass. This circus of incompetence, corruption, and cruelty will end. When it does, the men and women in Trump's Republican Party will come to you, telling you they can repair the damage he's done. They'll beg you to forget their votes to exonerate Trump from his crimes, ask you to forgive their silence, their cowardice, and their betrayals as Trump wrecked this nation. Every time they had a choice between America and Trump, they chose Trump. Every time they were called to the service of this nation and their sacred oath, they chose Trump. Every time. Learn their names. Remember their actions. And never, ever trust them again.
That's very powerful. So linking these people with Trump. So when things go, when push comes to shove, people will say, okay, well, I remember these people were in Trump's, on Trump's side. They put Trump before the country. What an awful voice. I think it's a cool voice. Yeah. Know their names. We will remember every one of them. Okay. Only people affected by freedom of movement are those Brexit left behinds. Nobody in the UK who has money can't move. Very cringe. Okay. 134,000 deaths according to JHU. Coming from them, as if the Dems aren't party driven, yes. Learn their names. Didn't the guy 80s VHS trailer for bad cop movies? Yes, he sounds like that guy. Although I think he died. I think that guy died, unfortunately. Although he was quite old. The trailer for like Die Hard and movies like that. Is that the voiceover for Tekken? The Dems never break unity. So you're saying that the Democrat president wouldn't be worse? Is that for me or them? It was on for 5 minutes, thinking he finished early. I was on for 5 minutes, thinking he finished early. Is that about me, about the stream? Apologies about the last stream. Unfortunately, I had some technical issues. I want to stay with the US for another little bit. This is... I hate to expose you people to these things, but I think it's important that we listen to these people because they have interesting things to say and interesting things to reject.
Hi, I'm a language learning app.
Okay, I'm a language learning app.
Point in a presidential cycle.
So this is Tucker Carlson. So he is a Fox News pundit. Drums to the bass, welcome. I will get back to UK politics in a moment. I just want to stay on this for a little bit. So this is Tucker Carlson. So he is a Fox News pundit, and he's very interesting for many reasons, because he's the type of person who mixes fact with fiction. For comparison, he's the type of as I said, type of person who tries to mix or does mix fact with fiction, and he does it so well that it's difficult to identify. For most people, it's difficult to identify which is the fact and which is the fiction. And he tends to paint everyone with a large brush so that it's easier for him to present, well, these group of people are all wrong because they are associated with a certain section of society. I'll let him begin, and then I'll pause it to respond.
Usually by this point in a presidential cycle, we've got a pretty good idea what the candidates believe, and you'd think that would be especially true this year. Joe Biden has been in politics for more than half a century. This is his third run for president. Since 1969, the year of the moon landing, Joe Biden has been yammering in public virtually without stopping, until this year. This year, the famously chatty Joe Biden has said almost nothing. His advisors claim that's because of COVID-19, but nobody believes that. Everybody knows why Biden won't appear in public. When he does emerge, things tend to get strange. Biden's words take on a kind of psychedelic quality.
The volume is not. Let me try to increase the volume. Apologies. See if this is a bit better.
Sentences seem to be connected, yet at the same time they are strangely disjointed. Newspaper taxis appear on the shore. Rocking horse people eat marshmallow pies. It's mesmerizing to watch. You can almost make out the tangerine trees in the marmalade skies.
We thought in our administration we should lower the tax from the high 30s to 28%, then lower it to 21. I'm going to raise it back up to 28. Folks, it's not sufficient to build back. We have to build back better. That's what my plan is, to build back better. It's bold. These aren't somebody else's children. They're all our children. They're the children. Those children are the kite strings that hold our national ambitions aloft. The only entity, the only thing that can tear America apart is America itself. Period.
What does any of that mean? Honestly, we don't know, but Joe Biden doesn't either. It's all good, man. This is the candidate who could soon be president of the United States. Don't tell him that. It'll only make him anxious. The people around Biden, by contrast, are not anxious. They are completely in control. They know exactly what they want. And yesterday, they gave the rest of us a glimpse of what that is. The Biden campaign released a long document outlining its goals. It was written by Eric Holder, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Simone Sanders, among others. These are the people who will run the country if Joe...
So, Joe needs to go back into quarantine. Letting him talk is what's going to hurt him. Exactly. Joe Biden's campaign has been doing very well because Joe Biden hasn't been talking. So this is the problem with Tucker Carlson. Sometimes he's right about certain things. He's wrong about a lot of things, but sometimes he's right. Now, of course, Tucker Carlson is attacking Joe Biden because he needs to defend Trump. And he can't defend Trump at the moment, so he has to attack Joe Biden. He's not doing this out of public service. Fox News is a Republican channel, so he has to attack Joe Biden here. And Joe Biden is easy to attack. So what he's attempting to do is, and maybe he's right, he's saying that Joe Biden is not leading the campaign. Joe Biden is not the driver at the wheel. Somebody else is. And we need to know who these people are.
Joe Biden is elected in November. So what's their...
Of course, they put up AOC because AOC is a hate figure for the right. Anything she says, oh, she's the enemy of the people. She's no way, Max Tucker is the definition of wrong. What I mean is that he imagine a chocolate cake with chocolate chips inside. The chocolate chips are the truth. The rest of the cake is lies. That's what Tucker Carlson is good at. So the problem is most people don't know the difference between the cake and the chips.
Their plan? Well, in a sentence, they'd like to make the rest of America very much like our biggest cities have become. Squalid, dangerous, chaotic, and unhappy.
Now see, here is where we have the lies. We've missed the chocolate chip. So what he does is, and he's very good at this, he says, so he's associating, no comment. What he's doing is he's associating Joe Biden with what he calls the hard left. You know, not even the left, the anarchists who are burning down shops and things like this. The cake is a lie. But see, he's true that Joe Biden is not. How can I say? Competent. Joe Biden has cognitive issues at the moment, and he's right about that. Joe Biden is making a lot of mistakes, and who is running the campaign? We don't know. Now, I don't think AOC or Bernie Sanders is influencing the campaign because they don't have any power now over Joe Biden. The people who have power over Joe Biden are probably the last remnants of the previous Democratic administration. Those are the people who have influence over Joe Biden. Bernie Sanders or AOC have little or no influence over Joe Biden. They're probably there to be humored, but they don't have any power. But Tucker Carlson wants you to believe that they are the ones pulling Joe Biden's strings, and their strings are being pulled by someone else on the far left, as he would describe it. The people who are rioting in the streets. So what he's attempting to do is he's trying to create a link between the people who are rioting on the streets with AOC and finally to Joe Biden. Now, once you actually are aware that he tries to do this, then it's easier to understand that he's just talking a pile of crap. But if you're not familiar with that, then it's very easy. He says, look, there are two wings in the country. There are the Democrats on the left, which is not true, and the Republicans on the right, which is somewhat true. The Republicans are more like far right, and the Democrats are center right. And that's not even a good example. There's not even a good explanation. Max, I'm concerned that Kanye West running for president is a ruse to hive off votes from black voting Democrats. I don't know if he can achieve that. It depends. At the moment, I don't think it's possible, but we will see. Perhaps it could be true. It could turn out to be. He could be hired in a way by Donald Trump to upset Biden's support, but I don't see him doing that, because a lot of the people who would vote for Kanye West are younger people, because older people don't know who he is, and older people are the ones who actually go out and vote. Younger people don't turn out in huge numbers to vote. Maybe there's a lot of enthusiasm for Kanye West, but at the end I don't think they will go and vote. So just back to this, Kanye's doing an album promotion, dumb as dumb. Biden is ahead, so like Johnson, all he has to do is hide and let Trump trash around to catch up. The more Joe Biden goes out and exposes himself, the worse it is for him. All he has to do is stay silent. Hopefully there won't be any debates. If there aren't any debates, he'll be okay. If they do a debate by Zoom or something, that would even be better for Joe Biden, because they can have a script for somebody can be crazily writing a response for him while Donald Trump is speaking. Anyway, let's hear what else Tucker has to say.
They'd like to do to your neighborhood what they have done to New York City. The main thing they've done to New York is make it scary. Violent crime is surging dramatically there, as we have told you night after night. And one of the main reasons for that is the elimination of cash bail. The city no longer holds the people it arrests. Criminals are in and out of custody immediately, and many, of course, go on to commit more crimes.
So they eliminated cash bail because a lot of people couldn't afford it. People were being put in jail because they couldn't pay parking tickets. Some people were put in jail because they weren't able to pay their rent. It's not just about people doing drive-by shootings. This whole cash bail, I'm not an expert on it, so it's probably better that I don't talk about it, but I know that it's not as simple as Tucker Carlson says it is. A lot of people have been punished. People have decided to stay in prison even though they are innocent, because they can't make the bail, because they can't afford it.
It's nuts. The Biden campaign plans to abolish cash bail everywhere. No bail for any crime nationwide. Think about what that would mean. Americans are fleeing urban areas
But I'm not an expert on bail, but I've never heard of, I don't hear of bail in other parts of the world. And also this idea of bail. Well, if somebody is given bail, then they're free to leave. Well, if somebody is a serious threat, shouldn't the judge decide, well, this person should stay in prison until trial, jail until trial, not to be freed on bail? It's like, if somebody can raise bail, then they're free to go out of jail. What's the benefit of that? This idea, well, if we have a high level of bail, then people can't get out. But if somebody's selling drugs and they have a lot of cash, well, they can pay the bail and get out. Like, who are you stopping? Once again, I think it's the discretion of the judge should be more important than someone who has a huge amount of cash.
Huge numbers. Big cities are just too mismanaged. They're too dangerous. Unless you are very rich or very poor, you're getting out. New York City lost 53,000 people in 2019. They will lose far more than that this year. Most of these refugees have relocated to the suburbs, where they imagine they are safe from the effects of disastrous urban policy. But they're not. Democrats want to abolish.
You see here how he's attempting to poke. He's attempting to rile up also the suburban voters. He knows that these are Republican voters. So remember, Republicans, even though you've left the city, the problems of the city aren't going to leave you behind. They're going to follow you also. It's not about the truth. It's about scaring white people. Americans are fleeing cities. Yeah. Why are home prices rising? Exactly. We know what you like to do with people that eat cake twice. Does Tucker Carlson like cake?
The suburbs. They are too clean and nice, and therefore, by definition, they are racist.
What? They're clean and nice. What do you mean by clean, Tucker? Tucker's face looks a bit orange. I haven't put on any filters, I promise. These are all dog whistles. Clean and nice. I love the way Max laughs at the dumb comments. They're not dumb. They're very intelligent comments. Funny comments. There's a difference between dumb and funny.
The Biden campaign has highly specific plans on how to do this. It's called Affirmatively Furthering Fair Housing. It's a HUD regulation. It was written during the Obama administration. Biden's advisors plan to enforce it. They will cut off critical federal funds from municipalities unless those municipalities submit to federal control of urban planning. Towns will be ordered to abolish zoning for single-family housing because single-family homes, needless to say, are racist.
Orange Man Jr. Tucker's a very good boy, very clean. I want to show you, actually, at the end of this video, I found a fantastic video. I want to show it to you. I just thought of it now. I hadn't it in the list of videos to show you, but I want to find it. Just a moment, please bear with me. It's a fantastic video that explains the problem of housing in the US. Let me see. If I can find it. Here we go. So Tucker Carlson was talking about the problem of housing. So yes, it's going to be racist to have single story house. He said, let me just go back.
Submit to federal control of urban planning. Towns will be ordered to abolish zoning for single-family housing because single-family homes, needless to say, are racist. Low-income, federally subsidized apartments will go up in the suburbs. It's a good bet you won't see any of this. You won't see projects being built in Aspen or Martha's Vineyard or anywhere else Eric Holder vacations. But in your neighborhood, oh yeah. Your kids' schools.
So this is exactly the same thing as I wanted to show you. So I'm just going to stop Tucker for a moment. I want to show you this very interesting video. Explains the problem of housing in the United States. See, hopefully it works. So this man documented one of America's most shockingly racist myths. So this is actually from this year. I really wanted to show you this. I couldn't find it, but I found it and I wanted to show it to you. It's so connected to what Tucker Carlson is saying. But it's the reality. Tucker Carlson wants to hide something from you.
We've left untouched the biggest segregation of all that overwhelms everything else and hangs over our entire society, and that is that every metropolitan area in this country is residentially segregated. I've lived in many of them. There are clearly defined areas in every one that I've lived in that are all white or mostly white, or all African American and mostly African American. And all of us accept this as part of the natural environment. It's not we think it's a good thing. We say it's too bad, but we think it's sort of natural, normal, something we accept. It's not that we've tried to do anything about it and have failed. We've never even tried. And so in order to rationalize to ourselves our failure to undo it, we've adopted a national myth. And that myth is pervasive. It's pervasive across the political spectrum. The liberals and conservatives hold it. The blacks and whites hold it. The name of that myth is we have de facto segregation. Not something that was created by government like all the other segregations that we undid in the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, but this is something that sort of just happened by accident. It happened because people like to live with each other of the same race. Or it happened because private actors, whether they were real estate agents or bankers or private citizens, discriminated in how they sold or rented homes. Or it happened because African Americans happen to be poorer than whites on average, and therefore they can't afford to move to middle-class communities. De facto segregation is an utter myth. There is no basis to it whatsoever. The racial segregation in every metropolitan area in this country was created by racially explicit government policy designed to create racial boundaries, designed to ensure that African Americans and whites could not live near one another, with policies that are so powerful that they still determine the racial landscape that we see in cities all over the country. Just like we have the myth of de facto segregation, we also think we know what public housing is. It's a place where poor people live, where lots of mothers with children, single parents with children, lots of young men without access to jobs in the formal economy, acting out, engaging in oppositional behavior that attracts attention to the police and a cycle of violence that we've seen in so many places. That's what we think of as public housing. But that's not how public housing began in this country. Public housing began in this country as a program for middle-class, working-class families. During the Depression, poor people were not permitted into public housing when public housing was first created. There was a housing shortage, and public housing was created for people who could afford to pay the full rent in housing, and they did in public housing, but for whom there was no housing available. Everywhere, the Public Works Administration and the other federal agencies that succeeded it created segregated public housing, separate projects for African Americans and whites in cities all across the country, frequently segregating neighborhoods that hadn't previously been segregated, that were integrated. During World War II, the actions of the government intensified to create segregation. They intensified because throughout the country, hundreds of thousands of workers flocked to centers of defense production, of war production, to take jobs that hadn't existed during the Depression. And the migration of workers into centers of defense production overwhelmed frequently the communities where they were working. The federal government had to build housing for these workers if it wanted the ships to be produced. For the African Americans, they built the housing on temporary housing because the explicit goal of the housing was that African Americans after World War II would leave and go back to the South. So they built temporary housing for the African Americans along the railroad. Sorry to interrupt, but temporary housing for the African Americans, so they knew, they had this idea that they would, well, they're not going to stay here. We don't want them here. We want them here just to work. And then once the war is over, they can feck off back to the South again. We don't want them here. Road tracks near the shipyards, and they built more stable housing for the white migrants in the white residential areas. Very soon after that, in the mid-1950s, a development occurred everywhere in the country, which was systematic, similar, and widespread. And that was that suddenly all the white projects began to develop large numbers of vacancies. All the black projects began to develop long waiting lists. And soon the situation became so untenable, so conspicuous. You couldn't have projects in the same city, some of which were virtually empty and the other of which had long waiting lists. The federal government and local housing agencies opened up all projects to African Americans. And then at about the same time, industry left the cities. Fewer and fewer jobs became available to the now increasingly and soon almost all African American population in the public housing. The population could no longer afford to pay the full cost of its rent, so the government had to begin subsidizing public housing. Maintenance declined in the projects. Prior to this, maintenance workers lived in the projects. They were paid good salaries and lived in the projects. Upkeep declined. The projects became vertical slums that we came to associate with public housing today. Another federal program that was perhaps even more powerful in creating racial segregation, and that was a program of the Federal Housing Administration designed to move white families out of urban areas into single-family homes in the suburbs. At a racially explicit basis,
we created a white noose around every urban area with federally subsidized single-family home subdivisions. These were giant subdivisions in many cases. The most famous of them, I'm sure you've heard of it, is Levittown, east of New York City. 17,000 homes in one place. What bank would be crazy enough to lend a developer the money to build 17,000 homes or 15,000 homes in one place for which he had no buyers? We were in a suburban country at that time. People thought the whole idea was lunacy. Who's going to want to live in a single-family home when they can live in the city instead?
Any of these developers, the only way they could get the capital to build these giant subdivisions was by going to the Federal Housing Administration, submitting their plans for the development, for approval of the construction materials they were going to use, the architectural design, the layout of the streets in the subdivision, and an explicit commitment not to sell a home to an African American, required by the Federal Housing Administration. The Federal Housing Administration even required, as a condition of these guarantees, developers like Levitt to place a clause in the deed of every home prohibiting resale to African Americans or rental to African Americans. These deeds still exist in these homes today. They're no longer enforced, no longer.
And this is the start of where everything started to collapse.
Enforceable, but they're still there. What was the consequence of this? Well, those homes in those days, in all of these suburbs, they sold for $10,000 or less, $8,000, $9,000 a piece. In today's money, that's less than $100,000, probably $90,000. African Americans who were prohibited, not they didn't want to, not because they didn't like living among whites, they were prohibited from moving into these suburbs, and they could easily afford to do so. Any working class family can afford to buy a home for $90,000, roughly twice national median income. Those homes and developments like that now sell for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 and more. The white families over the next couple of generations gained, you can do the arithmetic, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in equity. They used that equity to send their children to college, to take care of medical emergencies, to take care of economic downturns, most importantly, to bequeath it to their children, who then had down payments for their own homes. African Americans who accumulated none of that wealth as a result of this federal subsidy had none of those abilities. Today, nationwide, African American incomes are on average about 60% of white incomes. African American wealth today is 10% of white wealth. That enormous disparity between a 60% income ratio and a 10% wealth ratio is entirely attributable to unconstitutional federal housing policy practiced in the mid-20th century that has never been remedied. It's a constitutional violation, and of course it determines the ongoing racial inequalities we have today.
I saw this video just the other day and I was blown away by it. It's, I had always had this idea that, for the wrong reasons, of course. I thought, look, maybe people need to investigate why, on average, African Americans have less savings, less equity. How is it possible that, that they didn't buy homes in the 1940s, 1950s and transfer that wealth to their children? Because they weren't able to buy those homes. It was against the law for them to buy these homes. The laws are still on the books. Thank God for the internet. I had no idea that it was so integrated into the policy and this into not the constitution, but government policy. But the idea that people who had come to work building tanks, building ships, building aircraft to fight in a war to defend the United States were in a way treated as temporary workers because we didn't want you to stay here for too long. You're welcome to come here and work, but once again, once the war is over, we don't want you anymore. Get the hell out of here. And we'll create laws to make sure that you don't stay here. We'll make it impossible for you to buy homes. So I just thought it was important for you guys to see that, because it really opened my eyes. I was educated by this video, and I'd really like to get this book, because there's so I haven't read the book, but I have heard since watching the video that it is an amazing book to get, and I think he goes into also details about zoning policies. So he talked a bit about it in the video, but also other policies about making sure that African Americans would stay in one area and make more Zizek videos. African Americans would be forbidden from entering white areas. I think if we look at it, it was the people who wrote the laws decided where the African Americans would live and where the white Americans would live, and they decided, look, we want to protect what we have. We don't want it to be shared with the African American community. And you can still see it today, but it's a lot more subtle today, because you have the likes of Tucker Carlson saying, we don't want these dirty people coming. We have our nice clean communities. We don't want them damaged. What's the book called? It's called The Color of Law, Pete. It's on the screen there. The Color of Law. I'll see about posting a link to it on the community page tomorrow, if I remember. The stuff about land being bought and moved into right back the civil ways by British landowners is right there. It's the idea of who controls the land is extremely important, because whoever controls the land controls property on that land. They decide who can build, who cannot build, and unfortunately, a lot of these things haven't been rectified, and I don't think they are going to be rectified because politicians are afraid to sort this out, because they're afraid that they're going to lose votes. And it's great that there's someone like Richard Rothstein who's pointing this out. Thank you very much, QA Library. QA Library has put a link to the book. Didn't we free the slaves? Yes. Tucker Carlson would tell you, yeah, but these people are free now. Well, what's the problem? If they don't have money, it's because they're lazy, because they haven't pulled themselves up from their bootstraps. They're having too many kids. They're breaking the law. Why aren't they following the laws? I follow the law. Why don't they follow the law? If you have nothing, then you have nothing to lose. This is the greatest way to reduce these types of crimes and these problems. Give people something to lose. When somebody has nothing to lose, then what's the incentive for them not to commit crimes? Most of us don't commit crimes because we have something. Maybe you have your home. Maybe you own your home, or you rent your home. You have something in your home. You have a job. You have something in your life that you're afraid you're going to lose. But imagine a situation where you have nothing. Where is the incentive for you to follow the law? Where is the incentive for you to work hard, or attempt to get out of to get the boot off your neck, or the knee off your neck in some cases? Where is the incentive there? There is none. Okay, let's lighten the mood a little bit. Of course, we're getting quite depressing. I don't mean to do that. So I have a nice video here. We'll stay on the American theme, of course, for a little bit, and this should lighten the mood a little if the hamsters are cooperating.
If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.
If Ivanka was my daughter, it wasn't my daughter, I'd be probably dating her. Ugh.
Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are sick. Yeah.
Have you seen Ivanka? She's looking so great. Thank you very much.
I used to spank her back when she was 8. Now she's all grown up, but we cannot date because the lady is a Trump. They pulled her clothing line, I'd just pull her clothes. I'd pull them right off and say anything goes. But that's inappropriate, and everyone knows, because the lady is a Trump. She's like the free flowing feel of my hair, and the fact I'm a billionaire. But it's sad, I'm her dad. Me and Ivanka can never grind and bump, because the lady is a Trump. Thank you very much. Melania, clap louder.
Fantastic. I'm suddenly feeling a bit sick. But it's true, of course. Trump is so sick. If Max wants to be a pilot, why should he need £500,000 to become a pilot? He should be trained for free on the national education system, and then he pays tax and contributes positively to society. He's good at singing as well. Look, fact is back. In the day, houses were cheap, cars were expensive. That's why no expensive entertainment or gadgets or foreign holidays to spend your money on. I can see him touching nose to nose with her, and it makes me want to vomit. Yes. His supporters think it's completely all above board, of course. So I want to move to Australia for a moment. Okay, we have here we all know what's happening somewhat in Australia. What's happening in Hong Kong, I should say. So in Hong Kong, those Chinese made some cool stuff. These are some Australians who are worried about staying in Hong Kong because of new laws that have been brought in by the Chinese government, imposing very strict rules on sedation and criticizing the government even. So let's see what this article is about. This is intolerable. Fearful Australians in Hong Kong hasten plans to leave city. Australian expats in Hong Kong are feeling jittery about their future after Beijing imposed a new national security law, that can lead to foreigners being arbitrarily detained. They said the move has hastened their plans to leave the financial hub amid calls from their government for its citizens to reconsider their need to stay there. The national security law passed in Beijing and enacted in Hong Kong on the 1st of July punishes crimes of succession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces, with up to life in prison. It applies to permanent residents and non-residents in Hong Kong who breach the law in the territory, along with anyone accused of violating the law, regardless of their nationality and where the alleged crime took place. So foreigners could be arrested on arrival in Hong Kong. National security cases can also be sent to Chinese courts for trial. The law has been criticized by legal experts for its broad and vague definitions. Within days of passing the law, the Hong Kong authorities have issued warnings that some slogans and flags waved in defiance are deemed pro-independence and successionist, and could violate the legislation. At least 10 people were arrested at a protest on the 1st of July after possessing materials deemed subversive. This is a very worrying road China has been going down. So Chinese government have imposed these new security laws, and they're willing to suppress any type of dissent. Now, why are they moving so rapidly with this, and why are they being so draconian? I have my own theory about this, that there is that they are extremely worried about what's happening. Remember, folks, China has the best judicial service in the world, 99.9% conviction rate. China courts are terrible. No excuse. Being born somewhere means nothing at all. We must never sink to becoming utterly blind to the faults of the UK. China is breaking the one country, two system treaty with the UK and preparing to take over Hong Kong. Yes, they're definitely taking over Hong Kong. I've said about this before. I don't know if it was on the live stream or I don't. Maybe it was on the last live stream. I was saying about how until recently Hong Kong was a powerhouse. And hi, Pat. Hong Kong was a powerhouse, and China realized that it was very important to maintain good relations with it. Now the problem is that Chinese cities on the mainland are much more powerful, much more important to the Chinese economy. So Hong Kong is less important. So they feel they have nothing really to lose by becoming much more aggressive in their approach towards Hong Kong. And it's extremely worrying, because these are the first steps. You know, we say, well, it's just Hong Kong. It went Hong wrong. Scraggy Bear. Taiwan needs extra protection. We can't let a fellow democracy fall like Hong Kong. And they're hoping that Donald Trump will come to their aid. All the Chinese have to do is say, look, we'll stay in some of your hotels, Donald, and Taiwan will be thrown under a bus. This is as I said, people will say, well, this is just Hong Kong. Don't worry, China's not going to do anything more serious after this. No, this is the first steps, I feel, in the creation of some type of empire. China is reaching out. It's testing the water. I think they want to impose their will in other parts of the world. Especially, they're going to start in Asia. They're imposing their will on Vietnam. They've been challenging the Vietnamese military. They've been challenging the Indians as well. The South China Sea, they're building islands at the moment. You know, the United States is sleeping. Donald Trump is asleep at the wheel, while China is gradually building more and more power. I'm not talking about starting a war, but I think it's important that we understand what China is doing and where this leads to. What is their objective? Surely there must be somebody who's looking at China and saying, okay, where do they want to go? What is their end game? China is and has always been very aggressive. The last 10 years have become, and it's getting worse. They have the Belt and Road Initiative is costing a lot. They're getting caught up in debt trap. I think a huge problem also for them is that they're starting to see. I think there's this issue of a gender problem in China. Because of the one-child policy, back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of the families wanted to have a son. They didn't want to have a daughter. So they prefer to have a son so they can transfer, the wealth or leave their descendant something after he comes of age. They didn't want a daughter because the daughter would, in a way, not be someone who can. I don't even know the reasoning behind that, but I know that most of them wanted to have sons, and of course, what does that mean? When these children grow up, they end up having, communities where the vast majority of the population are boys, men. And there are no women around. And mix into this an economic crisis or a pandemic, and you have a very serious situation where people are, on tenterhooks, and there's a risk that this whole thing could explode, and the Chinese government are worried that they could have a rebellion on their hands. People will become disenfranchised with the government. People will become rebellious, and there's a chance that the government could be brought down. Now, of course, it's not something at the moment, but it is something I think the Chinese government are worried about. There are many different things happening at the moment that they want to be in control of. Who's handling the pandemic best? New Zealand, probably. Or Germany, maybe in Europe. They wanted sons because they are geriatric, patriarchic society. The man carries on the family name and has to take care of the parents, basically. China is pretty misogynist. Well, the debt trap is what they are lending a lot of money to risky investments. Like they did in the financial crisis when the subprime mortgages collapsed. If the US and UK and EU economies collapse, China will not gain, they will follow. Yeah, and in China, if the Chinese economy collapsed, can you imagine the chaos? At least here in Europe and in the United States, maybe to a lesser extent, we would, if our economies collapse, there is some way out. But in China, I don't see a way out. You have tens of millions of people on the streets. Be very difficult to control. History is very clear about what happens when a declining empire meets a rising empire. Yeah, I think you're all right. You're right there, Archangel, and I think it's extremely worrying. Bitcoin is the way forward. So just want to, before we finish the live stream, I just want to, sorry, no, where is it? Just open it here. One moment. We're staying with the Guardian, of course. I always use the Guardian. It's a good source. Back to Brexit, of course. We never escape Brexit. So it says here, vast Brexit customs clearance centre to be built in Kent. Exclusive from the Guardian says, Council given only hours of notice of emergency purchase of 1.2 million square foot Mojo site, not Bojo site, not Bojo site, Bozo site, but Mojo site. So it says here, the government has secretly purchased 12 hectares or 27 acres of land 20 miles from Dover to site a vast new Brexit customs clearance centre for 10,000 lorries that come through Kent port from Calais every day. It will be the first customs port erected in the UK to deal with goods coming from the EU for 27 years. Work will begin on fencing off the vast 1.2 million square foot Mojo site on the outskirts of Ashford on Monday. The local council was given only a few hours' notice that the land was now in public ownership. After being informed on Friday afternoon, the council leader has been forced to rush out hand-delivered letters to local residents to warn them of the disruption. Paul Bartlett, the Conservative councillor, told The Guardian, the letter from Rachel McLean, MP and Parliamentary Undersecretary for of State for Transport, will say, we are writing to inform you that the government, the Department of Transport, has purchased the site known as Mojo, Church Road, Severington, Ashford. Preliminary works are scheduled to take place on the western parcel from Monday the 13th of July 2020. They will include securing the site with fencing, grass and weed vegetation, cutting, extensive survey work and construction of a temporary site office, and the construction of a temporary access to the site from the A2070 link road. Plans have not yet been finalised for the use of the site, but it is anticipated to form part of the department's strategy to minimise potential disruption at Kent Port for the end of the transition period. It is likely to involve temporary capacity for the holding of delayed heavy goods vehicles and facilities for border-related controls to be carried out by government agencies. Okay. The emergency purchase of the site is expected to be unveiled on Sunday by Michael Gove, who is this is just ridiculous, who is to tour TV studios publicising the government's multi-million-pound Get Ready for Brexit campaign. Businesses are bracing themselves for the publication of the first official details of the new border operating model and immigration system on Monday. Now, Phil from a different bias still believes that the UK will not leave. I haven't seen I haven't seen many of his latest videos, but from the last impression I got was that he believed that the UK will sign some sort of deal and there will not be a crash out of the end of the transition period. Now, I don't know if he's changed his mind since the last time I checked, but this sort of points in the direction that there will be a crash out. If this was some secret could this be something that the government are doing in order to confuse the public? Phil, my old friend. Could this be an attempt to confuse the public? Perhaps. I think we're crashing out, my friend. Yeah, I think so too. The way I looked at it has always been Boris Johnson will get some sort of bare bones deal, which is basically crashing out without a deal, or crashing out without a deal. Now, some people have suggested that there's a possibility of having another extension, but that would require a new withdrawal agreement. So that's almost zero possibility. It's not impossible, but it's almost impossible. I agree with Phil. The UK has no other choice but to sign a bare bones deal with the EU, else the lights go out. Yeah, I still think it's going to be some sort of bare bones deal. Boris Johnson wants to look out for Boris Johnson, so he can come back. He wants to get something that he can return, say, look, I have succeeded. Mission accomplished. And then he can present it to the public as a victory. And then if anything goes wrong, of course, who is he going to blame? Us, the European Union. We have this deal and they're not respecting the deal, or they agreed to do X, Y, or Z and they're not doing that. The irony, as published in Private Eye, is that the Brexit campaign calls EU 25,000 bureaucrats excessive, but will most likely employ 32,000 bureaucrats to manage our own borders. Well said. At least in the USA, Trump isn't above the law, as the ruling this week proved. America might be crazy, but its system can fight people like Trump. So China versus USA, I support USA. Any Brexiteers here? Tell us how you feel now. Genuine question. I think there may be some lurking Brexit for thee, but not for me. The government has been forced to introduce customs controls because of the decision to leave the European Single Market and Customs Union on the 1st of January. When the single market came into being in January 1993, trade barriers across the bloc disappeared, along with tariffs that many will remember as marking the end of duty-free alcohol and cigarettes. But from the 1st of January, the UK will revert to a system whereby importers will have to make customs declarations. And here we have Mojo. I should have called it Bojo or Bozo. There are fears locally in Kent that it will lead to massive congestion and tailbacks on motorways from both the Port of Dover and the Eurotunnel Freightway in nearby Folkestone. Last year, contingency plans known as Operation Brock, what happened to Operation Yellowhammer, had to be put in place to guard against gridlock in the event that the UK crashed out of the EU with no deal. Bartlett said that it was no surprise that the land was going to be developed, as it has been empty for almost 10 years, and that HM revenue and customs operations would be more welcome locally than the rumoured Amazon warehouse. so they're saying, you could have got Amazon, although Amazon isn't all that fantastic, for working. You could have got Amazon, but we're not going to give you Amazon. We're going to give you customs and revenue and customs warehouse instead, and lots of lorries. But think of all the sandwich bars that they'll be doing amazing business. And you could charge for like Ryanair. You could have people pay a penny to spend a penny. Was it not to spend a penny or pay a penny? I don't remember. You could charge them £1 to use the toilet, so you could make a lot of money. All those truckers selling them greasy sandwiches and charging them to use the toilet. So an amazing business. But he was concerned about the government rushing to the new trading environment. Though Boris Johnson needs to be careful that these customs and tariff arrangements are finalised and in place in time. Good luck with that, because otherwise there would be serious congestion, and we don't want that. There is an enormous amount of trust involved in Boris and his counterparts in Europe to get us where we need to be by the 31st of December, and the timetable and the time is not on our side, he added. Multiple government spokespeople declined to comment on plans, saying that details would be revealed over the weekend. So over this weekend, we're going to see Michael Gove, good old Michael Gove, telling us how things are going to be. Is Michael Gove trustworthy? Is it really going to be this, or is it just another get Brexit done scam? I think it's different this time. I think really I don't think this is just for show. I think this is the real deal. They are planning to park these lorries in this area. And they're hoping that, Conservator says 6,600 trucks per day. EU check now, 2 minutes, just passport. It's going to be chaos. Absolute chaos. Written on a toilet wall, here I sit, broken-hearted, paid my penny, yet only farted. Boris's dad just bought a house in Greece, I wonder why. Non-EU checks, 5 to 45 minutes. Good old pen folded to press at the weekend. Ozo, of course. Oh my god. They have many industries in China, which are... Oh, sorry. Why does his hair have to have random lengths? I'm sure he's a robot. Is Gov trustworthy? Do bears hold it into us? Knock his little bowl glasses off. Boris is screwed, but he can just walk away from the mess that he and his band of merry men created. I can remember how epic passing border was when the trucks outside the EU in Hungary can take days. Pollution levels will go up in that area too, but the locals will be pleased. And then house prices in that area will drop, of course. Like when he bumbled, he just hit a system 32 error. We have to say no. I thought Boris's dad was applying for a French passport. He probably already has a French passport. Does Farage have a German passport, or is it his children are German? I don't remember. The EU should have a minimum wage of €5 an hour. That's the truth. I think in countries like Denmark, they don't actually have a minimum wage, but they don't need it because everyone is paid reasonably well or very well. I'm French now. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream for tonight. It was great having you all on, and thank you so much for all of your patience. The hamsters abandoned me in my time of need. But before we finish, of course, we have one for the road, as always. It's and thanks to Killer for these amazing videos. This is an old favorite. So let's hear what it is. And so before we watch the video, so I just want to thank everyone for coming on the stream tonight. Thank you so much for all of your comments. Thanks so much to the moderators for moderating and steering the ship in the right direction, away from the icebergs. Thanks to everyone who donated to the stream tonight. Apologies, there is no super chat tonight. I'm in the bad books with YouTube. They've taken away my super chat abilities. So we're down to we're back to the old ways, the pen and paper. We're back to the old ways of the donations. If you want to donate, feel free. The links are always in the stream. The best channel on the YouTube. Thank you so much. The Angry Bin Man Show. The Angry Bin Man Show. That would be something to see. So let's end with a bang. So I'll just open this link.
Hi there, Nicola here. Well, we've reached third base, or phase 3 as I like to call it. July the 22nd, you can go to the hairdressers, you can go to the beauty salon and hang about the pubs, but mind the safe distancing. Maybe quite soon, comedy will be registered as an art form and we'll be able to get some help to the comedy clubs and they'll open up. I don't even know why that came into my head, but it did. But I couldn't stop laughing this morning watching Jackson Carlaw on the Sky News when he was asked how pleased he was that Scotland is coping well with the coronavirus in comparison to other parts of Britain, and he near choked in a fucking tatty scone. I mean, the Scottish Tories would rather we were all just fucking on our knees than admit that we've actually did a good job from the Scottish Parliament. Like that child that says, thank you for getting me a helmet for my bike, but I'd rather have banged my head in the pavement just to prove you rang. Don't ask me to work out that psychology. Right, guys, don't make me put my toe up the crack of your arse either. Safe distance. You need to wear a mask in the shops and on public transport. You'll see all this on the websites. Check it out and look after each other. Don't let this virus come back and get us all. Well, thanks everybody. Frank, get the door. We're heading out.
Fantastic. Very nice. As always, a pleasure. So thank you so much, guys. I see you on Tuesday next Tuesday at the usual same bat times, same bat channel. 9:30 British summertime. So have a great weekend, everyone. To the people on Discord, I'll pop over for a little bit and say hello. So have a great one, guys. Stay safe, as Boris Johnson always says. Stay alert. Wash those hands, and I'll see you next time. Good night, everyone.